Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakachaja Sitarasana Shri Srimad The Divine Grace of Bhakti Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakachaja Astatarasana Shri Srimad The Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Gadadhar Shiva Shri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Grantha Raj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Gaur Premanandi All glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga and Srila Prabhupada. Continued reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, Additional Pastimes. And how is this stated? It's called Additional Pastimes of His Divine Grace. Very revealing. And continuing a summer in Montreal. During Prabhupada's stay in Montreal, Janardhan showed him several news items concerning Pope Paul VI. The Pope was staunchly supporting the Catholic stand against abortion, despite a large protest movement within the Church, as opposed to today. Can you imagine just a few short years? And now the Church, in many situations, sanctions murder of the child in the womb. Who can imagine? Prabhupada admired the Pope for upholding the scriptures, even though millions of Catholics didn't. He decided to write him. He had tried such things before, writing to Gandhi and writing to Nehru. And in that same spirit, he dictated a letter one morning and sent it to the Vatican. In his letter, and there's a full text in the appendix of this book, but we won't read that. In his letter, Prabhupada explained his personal background and mission. He then defined love of God, as it is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and stated that human life is especially meant for learning to love God. Noting that people were mostly interested in sense gratification, Prabhupada remarked, quote, "This tendency is very much deteriorating. Because Your Holiness is the head of a great religious sect, I think we should meet together and chalk out a program for cooperation." Prabhupada went on to describe some of the symptoms of society as degradation, including the pro-abortion movement within the Catholic faith. I understand it from reliable sources. Prabhupada wrote that people are trying to get Your Holiness's sanction for the contraceptive method, which is certainly against any religion of the world. In the Hindu religion, such contraceptive method or abortion is considered equivalent to murder. Prabhupada said the same degradation was affecting India, and he suggested that the guardians of society treat this situation as a very serious one. Prabhupada closed his letter. If you think that a meeting with you will be beneficial for the human society at large, I shall be very much pleased if Your Holiness will grant me an interview. Srila Prabhupada ki. Unfortunately, the Pope did not meet with Prabhupada. But it is his loss. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 412:51. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, 12th chapter, text 51. In New York in 1976. In many temples at that time, they'd already started putting signboard so that devotees could follow. So Prabhupada sat in the Vyasasthan, he started chanting, he said, "Where is the signboard?" We didn't have a signboard. But the next day, we had a signboard. Because that's how Prabhupada used to do things. The next day, we had a signboard. Jnana Magyata Tatvaya. Jnana Magyata Tatvaya. Yo Dadyat Satpatemritam. Yo Dadyat Satpatemritam. Kripalo Dinanatasya. Kripalo Dinanatasya. Devastasya Nugrinate. Devastasya Nugrinate. Please chant. Jnana Magyata Tadvaya. Yo Dadyat Satpatemritam. Kripalo Dinanatasya. Devastasya Nugrinate. Jnana Magyata Tatvaya. Ladies, Anyone else? Jnanam, knowledge. Agyata tatvaya, to those who are unaware of the truth. Ya, one who, dadyat, imparts. Satpate, on the path of truth. Amritam, immortality. Kripalo, kind. Dinanatasya, protector of the poor. Deva, the demigods. Tasya, to him. Anugranate, give blessings. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The narration of Dhruva Maharaj's sublime knowledge for the attainment of immortality. Persons unaware of the absolute truth can be led to the path of truth. Those who, out of transcendental kindness, take on the responsibility of becoming master protectors of the poor living entities automatically gain the interest and blessings of the demigods. Please repeat. The narration of Dhruva Maharaj is sublime knowledge for the attainment of immortality. Persons unaware of the absolute truth can be led to the path of truth. Those who, out of transcendental kindness, take on the responsibility of becoming master protectors of the poor living entities automatically gain the interest and blessings of the demigods. Purport. Jnanamagyata means knowledge which is unknown almost throughout the entire world. No one knows actually what is the absolute truth. Materialists are very proud of their advancement in education, in philosophical speculation, and in scientific knowledge. But no one actually knows what the absolute truth is. The great sage Maitreya therefore recommends that to enlighten people about the absolute truth, tattva, devotees should preach the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the entire world. Srila Vyasadeva especially compiled this great literature of scientific knowledge because people are completely unaware of the absolute truth. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, it is said that Vyasadeva, the learned sage, compiled this great Bhagavata Purana just to stop the ignorance of the mass of people. Because people do not know the absolute truth, this Srimad Bhagavatam was specifically compiled by Vyasadeva under the instruction of Narada. Generally, even though people are interested in understanding the truth, they take to speculation and reach at most the conception of impersonal Brahman. But very few men actually know the personality of Godhead. Recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam is specifically meant to enlighten people about the absolute truth. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, although there is no fundamental difference between impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and the Supreme Person, factual immortality cannot be obtained unless and until one attains the stage of associating with the Supreme Person. Devotional service which leads to the association of the Supreme Lord is actual immortality. Pure devotees, out of compassion for the fallen souls, are kripalu, very kind to people in general. They distribute this Bhagavat knowledge all over the world. A kind-hearted devotee is called Dinanath, protector of the poor, ignorant mass of people. Lord Krishna is also known as Dinanath, or Dinabandhu, the master or actual friend of the poor living entities, and his pure devotees also take the same position of Dinanath. The Dinanathas, or devotees of Lord Krishna, who preach the path of devotional service, become the favorites of the demigods. Generally, people are interested in worshiping the demigods, especially Lord Shiva, in order to obtain material benefits. But a pure devotee who engages in preaching the principles of devotional service as prescribed in the Srimad Bhagavatam, does not need to separately worship the demigods. The demigods are automatically pleased with him and offer all the blessings within their capacity. As by watering the root of a tree, the leaves and branches are automatically watered, so by executing pure devotional service to the Lord, the branches, twigs, and leaves of the Lord, known as demigods, are automatically pleased with the devotee, and they offer all benedictions. Om Gyana Tamranda Shagananjana Shalakaya Chakshorm Litamina Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lankaiti Garim Yatkipitamam Bande Srinvata Sukata Krishna Punya Shabana Kirtana Ridyan Takstoya Badrani Vidunoti Surat Satam. So this is that's confirmed. Srinvata Sukata Krishna Punya Shabana Kirtana. The qualification for hearing is that one has to make the effort to cleanse the heart. In order to, it's like, we see sometimes, you may have a computer. It may be a very advanced computer. Maybe it's the fastest computer available today. But if you cannot see the screen, if for some reason, like many times you see devotees, they crack the screens on their devices. And what happens? On a liquid crystal display, you get all the liquid mixed up there. And now it's impossible to read, although all the information is there. So in the same way, Prabhupada has many times explained that this is revealed knowledge. That means that the knowledge is already there. So that first verse of Shikshastakam that we chant regularly is that we have to cleanse the heart. Prabhupada refers to it like dust from the mirror. The same thing as the computer. All the information. And it can be immediately recognized. If you have a good screen, then you have access to everything. It's like today we have database. In the past, we had no such thing. We used to have to carry the book or take notes, write flashcards, so many ways to try to keep in touch. And you couldn't carry everything. So you had to choose what books are you going to carry. You're going on a long journey. What are you going to pack? So Prabhupada gave some hint that Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion, teaches the Lord Chaitanya, Sri Ishapanishad. So like this, he gave some hint that these books you can take. But even that's a lot to carry around. But when one is actively engaged in preaching, and Krishna is Sarvasya Chaham Riddhi Sanivishtam Atakspati Aganam Apavanam Cha. Krishna reveals whatever is required for the devotee to accomplish the mission. One time a devotee who left devotional service because he was not understanding this subtle point. He was expecting that this pure devotee should know every facet of mundane knowledge. Otherwise, how is that person so-called Nitya Siddha or this or that? Doesn't. So he's thinking that, why doesn't Prabhupada know how to fix a car or do some other mundane thing? Very offensive. This way. But that's the way people are thinking. Why this? But that's not what was required to complete the mission. And if that person, this is of course in the beginning days, anyone can look back now and understand what it is that Srila Prabhupada has accomplished in 10 years. 1966, he came in 1965, September. Incorporated the society in 1966, a little less than a year later, right? September 65 to July 66. And then 10 years later, he's riding down Fifth Avenue on a chariot. Who else could say that they've accomplished such a feat of almost impossibility? And Prabhupada was recognized. We're looking for that article now because it's there. A person who accomplished significant achievements in later life, and Prabhupada was named as one of those persons by some mundane publication. I forget which one. Could have been, who was that, Ram Roy? Which one? A little louder, what? Guinness Book of World Records. What is it called? Was Guinness? Was it Guinness? Interesting fact about Guinness. One of our devotees, her father was the originator of the Guinness World Book of Records. So it's interesting how that blends in that way. Devotees are very connected in many ways. And so how is that? So that person who unfortunately left Prabhupada's association because he couldn't understand that the spiritual master is not here as the repository of this mundane information, but he knows everything about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which no one else knows. So what is more important? So we have to have some appreciation. Otherwise, how can one choose who should be followed? You know, people are following so many personalities. You have the social media, right? And everybody has their, whatever, thousands or millions of followers. And that is supposed to be some accomplishment. Right? But Prabhupada had a mere 5,000 disciples, and all young men and women. And by his endeavor, he was able to accomplish more than anyone could ever imagine. So such a great soul is very rare. This is something that when one comes to Krishna consciousness, this appreciation forms the initial basis for being eligible. If he doesn't recognize the pure devotee, then how can he take instruction? You have to know, and this is, of course, the mercy. The Dinanath Prabhupada was so kind that he presented himself in such a way that he was easily accessible. And many people, just like that, Adai Pram passed around that video in the morning. Everyone saw about the gentleman who got one of Prabhupada's books. He'd never met the devotees, never knew anything about Vedic knowledge. Read the book, started chanting, stopped smoking, stopped eating meat. Never, ever came in contact with the devotees or went to a temple, just by receiving. And the book was not given to him by a book distributor. Somehow or other, he had it and was sitting there for 6 months. He got it from someplace. And so this is the latent effect. The book itself is the potent, but the ability to appreciate the book requires a certain interaction. He was not ready at the time that the book was there, but it sat there patiently waiting for him for some reason, just like Chatur Vidabha Jante Mam. He had to be in a specific state of mind. He either had to be in distress, which apparently this individual was, seeker of knowledge, seeker of wealth, etc. So in this way. And so the spiritual master is absolutely available to anyone who desires this knowledge. And you know, Krishna is there within the heart, so he immediately makes the arrangement. Immediately. When the devotees are going out on Sankirtan every day in different locations, and everyone who's become a devotee has some experience in this regard. He met the devotees. Maybe he missed them in this location, but then he finds them in another location. So in this way, the devotees are dinanathas. They're wandering around. This is their mercy. They have no other business. They're not there to make some money. You know, as it was described earlier in the previous verses about what is the purpose of reciting Bhagavatam and who is qualified and who is bona fide, that it cannot be done for any remuneration money-wise. So we see that situation. And one has to take and it's almost, for the devotee, it's second nature to avoid such things. Because there obviously some motivation. You know, a person is looking, he's huge following. If someone has been in Vrindavan, he knows that there are people who wander around with tens of thousands of people following them. But they're following them simply like, what is that children's tale? The Pied Piper, promising some insignificant thing that they cannot even grasp, some immediate access to spirituality without any qualification. Just come and follow, give money, give facility, and in this way, this cheap worship results in many followers. And that was always the test. Prabhupada said, I am distributing the most valuable thing. And so there will not be many takers, because who can afford the price? Anybody can buy something cheap, but who can purchase the diamond? And so this is, of course, these are all common sense analogies. You know, that where anybody can, you know, by listening to Srila Prabhupada, giving these discourses throughout from the beginning to the end. And how is he addressing the audience? And in the early days on 2nd Avenue, he was even giving lectures, many lectures on Chaitanya Charitamrita. And if one listens to them, you can understand that Prabhupada was not just addressing, you know, the few individuals who were there who didn't even have Bhagavad Gita at this point. But yet, out of his mercy, he's giving them the topmost level of knowledge. Topmost level. Because he understands that if they have the right attitude, then Krishna will allow them to understand. And we see who are those great souls who evolved from that situation. So this is another example. And if we examine these examples throughout the history of the society, we'll see who was able to perform devotional service in a way that enabled them to become instruments on behalf of the spiritual master and Krishna. So if one wants to achieve this, just like Dhruva Maharaj, he became eligible because of his sincere efforts. So everything requires effort. It is not that one can simply sit back and expect that he will receive the mercy. There is such a thing, causeless mercy. But that causeless mercy means that one still has to be recognized. And how is one recognized? There has to be some interaction. Prabhupada blessed the devotees. You see how they were able to accomplish so many things. He would personally empower them. Because no one can act on that level without some specific empowerment. And so we don't want to minimize, especially if someone is thinking, well, this person is my equal. Or maybe he's even my junior. But yet he's been able to accomplish so much. So how is that possible? But one who's non-envious, he can easily appreciate how the spiritual master is giving this opportunity, because that's all it is. It's an opportunity. If someone is averse to taking risk for the spiritual master, then he will make spiritual advancement, but it will be very measured. Whereas that person who decides that, no, I will do something extraordinary, whatever Prabhupada wants. He says something spectacular, yes, I can do it. Send me, I will do that. And Krishna and the spiritual master empower that person. So this, if one is honest, he can easily see this. Otherwise, if he's envious, then he will minimize. He'll say, no, this person was lucky. He was in the right place at the right time. So many excuses are there for not taking the opportunity. Oh, I couldn't do it because I was whatever. Pick an excuse, many excuses. My friend Urjasvat always said, everyone has excuses. Excuses are like elbows. Maybe he told that to Krishna Kripa. Everyone has two. So why? Why do we have this tendency? Because for whatever reason, we want to justify our inability to take the necessary effort to rise above one's self-imposed limitations. Oh, I don't know enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not this, I'm not that. Krishna can do anything, anytime. And here it's described, this verse is reminiscent of Yashasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana Sabara Gunas Tattva Samasate. The devotee automatically achieves all the good qualities of the demigods. For that person who's not endeavoring, Manoratenasati Daivato Bihi. He remains hovering on the mental platform. He's just there. He's almost there. But he can't land. He can't touch down. Because he's not grounded in the basics. Something is missing. We have these principles. Chant 16 rounds, follow 4 rounds. This is the minimum, to acquire eligibility. And it has to be done seriously and sincerely. So to the extent that one endeavors to just take this up, I was listening to one initiation lecture and Prabhupada saying, so you're here before the spiritual master, before the fire, before the demigods. So many witnesses are there. So you're taking these vows and you're making promises. And so if one desires to achieve that which he is eligible for, Yashasti Bhakti Bhagavati, then he must be strict in observance. Cannot be complacent or casual. Say, yes, it's okay, I can do this, no. So many times, and Prabhupada would emphasize this in different ways by giving the examples, by showing that a person's vision, his ability to see through the Shastra, can overcome his limited vision seen through the eyes of the modes of material nature. Because everyone is seeing things, Atmavan Manyate Jagat. Everyone is seeing things through the lens of his mind. So if some person cannot see, he cannot see the dirty thing. He doesn't want to see it. because he thinks if I ignore it, it will go away. It's not my service. But Prabhupada is teaching just the opposite. To the extent that you ignore it, to that extent you reinforce that particular mode of ignorance, mode of passion. So instead of developing the mode of goodness, tada rajas tamo bhavo kama lobhadayas cheta ete anavidam stitvam sattvam prasidate. Sattvam. He's not developing the mode of goodness from which that particular achievement allows one access to transcendental knowledge. So to the extent that one is still contaminated by passion and ignorance, to that extent his ability to drink the nectar of transcendental knowledge is limited. It's like trying to, nowadays, they're trying to be environmentally conscious. So what do? They give you a paper straw. Paper straw is useless. You start to use it and it collapses. So even though you have a cup full of nectar, delicious, whatever it is, you can suck your brains out and you won't get even a drop. So we have access to so much nectar. But if we're trying to drink it through this modes of ignorance and passion, you're not going to get anything. You have to have the proper instrument. So one has to pay strict attention to there's so many examples. How has this person made so much advancement in such a quick time? Because he has chosen to adopt the sincere attitude that qualifies one for receiving instructions directly within the heart. This is the highest form of knowledge transmission. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kaviye. Lord Brahma received this. So he's receiving this information like that. And we're receiving this same Gayatri mantra. It is the source of all knowledge. If one has access to this, he is complete. He has achieved the goal of human life. Atak pumbir dvija sheshta varnashama vibhagasaha sunustatasya dharmasya sangsiddhir haritosha. He knows, I have to please Krishna. So we chant every day like that. Yasastri Sandhyam. 3 times a day. Prabhupada gave us everything. Who can imagine that these Westerners could have accomplished so much under the guidance of the pure devotee? No, this is unique. And not only that, they supercharged when they brought it, and Prabhupada was so expert. He knew, if I convert these Westerners, I come back to India with these dancing white elephants, mission accomplished. Because that was the goal. Right? Because here you can, maybe 1/10 of 1% in America will take up the process of Krishna consciousness. When Prabhupada went back to India in 1970 with the devotees, one of the devotees' name was Dinanath. Prabhupada had an African-American devotee. So Prabhupada brought not just dancing white elephants, but also dancing black elephants. And they were a sight to see. You see the pictures of them on the streets in India. People came out, just like you see the paintings where the gopis are standing on the verandas, because the ladies never came on the street level. They were always on the rooftop and on the veranda. And they're throwing flowers down on the devotees as they're passing through the streets. Such nice devotees were there at that time. Mother Srimati, Mother Koshaya, Dinanath. Incredible combination. But all young devotees. These are all devotees 19, 20 years old. And practically speaking, just by seeing them, so many people became impressed that, if this person can make Westerners into Vaishnavas, then he is empowered. And the movement took off. Therefore, now you see how quickly it spread in India. In Delhi alone, anyone know how many temples in New Delhi? How many? 19. And another one being built as we speak. You can have unlimited temples. When we first went there in the early 70s, Prabhupada had just installed Radhaparthasarthi, and that was after the temple in Bengali Market, which was just a rented apartment. Then they rented a house, Lajpat Nagar, and that's where Radhaparthasarthi were installed. Not a very big house also. And then from there they built then they went to another temple called Greater Kailash. All simple rental properties. And then you see what Krishna did. And interesting how many people, even in America, so many people were donating to build that temple, the glory of India. So we have to build a temple next door. What will we call it? The glory of America. Right? What else can be called? It has to be the glory of America. Okay, write it down. Krishna Kripa, write it down. So there's this doesn't end. It doesn't because there was a few people who were empowered, they're thinking, Prabhupada's not here. Look at what this Prabhupada's books are doing. People are receiving them and they're becoming completely elevated by the contact with the pure devotee. And his movement, Golokara Premadana Harinam Sankirtan. Prabhupada said this movement is non-different from Krishna. Who can say that? Can we say that, transcendental meditation is non-different from Krishna? No. How about what do they call that? Anyway, so many things. There's nothing, and this is for those persons who have the eyes to see and the intelligence to understand, to make the distinction. Otherwise, you can easily be cheated. So there has to be one has to be sincere, at least sincere. When Prabhupada related that in Mayapur, the pastime of Prahlad Maharaj, just like Dhruva Maharaj, 5-year-old boy. How is 5-year-old boy qualified? So Prabhupada said it is not by seniority. All the demigods are there. Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Lakshmi, Indra, the functional. No, he said no. It is not by seniority. It is by sincerity. So one should develop at all costs this one particular trait. He should be sincere. And that sincerity, anyone who's been associated with the society for some time, he can immediately understand that this person is sincere and that he will be able to accept this devotional service with the right mood and execute it with humility. And then Krishna does the rest. We are just like Prabhupada used that term, protector masters. So now our society, we have so many protector masters. And they're doing the same service since time immemorial. They're doing the same service as the parampara. It's not different. It specifically says that this is a chain. If the chain was broken, you would know it. Just like you have a piece of, many times, someone trying to retrieve something with a rope, and he's pulling and pulling, and it breaks. And whatever the valuable thing on the end was becomes again lost. You have to go and make that connection. So this has happened in the past. And it is only by the sincere efforts of those devotees who have taken this movement to be their life and soul that it will continue. It doesn't require some casual participation. It doesn't require people to come because they like the food or they like the way people dress or some superficial attraction. That's there. There's nothing wrong with that. But until that beginning stage of attachment, that faith has to blossom, has to take root. Right? If you there's so many analogies, even the Christians know this. If you sow your seed on a barren field, nothing happens. Although the seed is there, and it has within it the potency and the potential to develop into the Bhakti Lata Bij, unless it is watered, unless it is nurtured, then nothing will happen. So one has to associate with the devotees. He has to come into the association of devotees. And then he will realize, without any extra endeavor, that okay, now I have found the correct situation. Look at all these kindred spirits. They're all doing the same thing. I must be in the right place. Not by some empty, how can you say, just like that we were mentioning earlier about these people just following the sadhu, like the Pied Piper. They don't even know why. They just think, well, this person has some, and they have some Shakti, there's no question. There's charisma. But it is nothing significant. They cannot deliver even one person. Even though they have these tens of thousands of followers, not one can be. The telling way was that when these people were going and following in transcendental meditation, that he would personally tell them, this Maharishi Mahesh, he would say, if you want real spiritual achievement, this highest level, then you have to go to Bhaktivedanta Swami. So this is acknowledged. What is our position then? That after coming to this movement, we should be so foolish, having achieved the greatest thing, to then again lose it? It's the most terrible loss. So by what the creeper, everything must be carefully guarded, that Maya should have no opportunity to come in. And this requires some diligence. Just like in a battlefield, you don't walk point blank into the enemy's, forward-facing guns. You have to know where to go, how to avoid the minefield, how to avoid the areas that present the most danger. This is common sense. But if one has no common sense, then, very quickly he can become victim of Maya again. After having come into the association, a great loss. So one should always seek the answers to whatever doubts he has. Prabhupada said that this is the sign of intelligence. Anyone can have doubts. But he must be actively attempting to clear those doubts. Right? That is a definition of sincerity. So, we have a few minutes remaining in the class. We'll read the text again. The narration of Dhruva Maharaj's sublime knowledge for the attainment of immortality. Persons unaware of the absolute truth can be led to the path of truth. Those who, out of transcendental kindness, take on the responsibility of becoming master protectors of the poor living entities automatically gain the interest and blessings of the demigods. That is the definition of the devotees, those who have accepted. They understand the valuable gift that they've received, just like Dhruva Maharaj. It is all a result of his realization that I was seeking something inferior, and now that I have achieved something superior, what is my duty? Right? Prabhupada used that term. Responsibility means facility. And if you recognize what is your responsibility, then automatically that which is required for you to execute will be provided. Krishna is unlimited. There's no shortage of resources. What did Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur famously said? There's no shortage of men or money. There's only a shortage of Krishna consciousness. And so that is our endeavor. If we have any deficiency or discrepancy, it's because we're lacking in that category. So we have to sincerely try to, what did Prabhupada say? Boil the milk. Boil the milk. Very useful analogy to keep in mind. And who knows this better than most? Those who are making burfi and pera. Because you have to boil the milk to remove the moisture, and then the milk becomes condensed. And the more you condense it, the more relishable, the more it is appreciated. All right, so milk is always good, but it can be made in a better state. So that, Prabhupada said, boil the milk. Remove all the unnecessary moisture, from your activities, and condense them to those which are essential to your advancement in spiritual life. And the most essential is that one has to become nimitta matram bhavasavya sachin. He has to become an instrument. He cannot be a bystander. It is not simply by watching. It's the other analogy. Prabhupada said that the dogs may bark, but the caravan will pass. So we should not become just casual observers. Oh, look, everything is nice. That's there. We have a periphery. We call them euphemistically friends of Lord Krishna. We want to cultivate them, bring them closer and closer. Because at a certain point, in contact with the devotees, then they will become of the same quality, just like iron and fire. The longer you keep the iron in the fire, the more it develops the quality of fire. And the quality of iron becomes minimized. So this applies to us and to everyone else. And so we maintain that association. The devotees have their own different idioms, expressions. And what is the one famous one? keeping the fire. Keeping the fire of Sankirtan, keeping the fire of Kirtan, keeping the fire of book distribution. These are all of the same nature of bestowing transcendental evolution to the living entity. And he must evolve, cannot remain the same. So don't remain on any sentimental platform. Try to rid yourself of any of these anarthas. Sarvapati vinir muktam tat paratvena nirmalam rishikesha rishikena sevanam. Bhakti uttama. That this sarvapati vinir. Sarva upati means unwanted thing. So the two things are there. One cannot engage the senses which are too busy engaged in material activities. So he has to give up material activities. Prabhupada said, put down the dirty thing. Sitting on the Vyasasana in 1975, Prabhupada gave a lecture. He looked at the devotees, and he says, if you want to pick up a good thing, first you have to put down the dirty thing. He made that motion. You have to drop it, get rid of it. So Prabhupada was giving, and Pancharatna was there videotaping. So somewhere these lectures are there, and you can see. Because if you hear the lecture, you can hear Prabhupada say, but you cannot see him. When Prabhupada would make these, how can you say, particular points, his eyes would open wide, like saucers. You had to see. Sometimes there's photographs like that. Prabhupada, he would look, and he would make this. So this was also nectar. Because one has to develop a connection also. How can one love the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom he has never met except indirectly in one sense? It's direct. If you have the attitude, aptitude, and heart, then you know that this is non-different. You carefully protect these books. You don't just throw them around and leave them. This is the book Bhagavata, the person Bhagavata, and the Bhagavan Iti Shabdite, and the Supreme Bhagavan. Not different. So if one develops love for the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then that pure love can be transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But without that, there is no chance. None whatsoever. Guru Krishna, Brahmanda Brahmate Kon Bhagavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Kripai Bhai Bhakti Lata. It says, Guru Krishna Kripai Bhai. So how can one get mercy without being eligible? And what is that eligibility? One has to have that, Yasadevi Parabhakti Yata Deveta. He has to have an implicit faith. So who has implicit faith in the spiritual master? That faith is based on love and trust. It's like the child, he trusts the mother and father. He stands up on a high place, and the father stands like this, and the child jumps because he knows the father is going to catch me. So you have to be ready to make that leap of faith. That's why they call it leap of faith. What does it mean? Implicit faith in the spiritual master and Krishna. So one has to be constantly endeavoring. There's not a moment to be wasted. One should always be thinking, how can I please Krishna? How can I please the spiritual master? Because when your brain is wired in that way, then you see everything in that light. And so many opportunities come. But it's not for self-aggrandizement. Not that, let me think of something by which I will become recognized by the devotees. Oh, just see, he did such a nice thing. No. Puja Pratishta. This is a disqualification. One has to be acting selflessly. So any questions, comments, corrections? Krishna Kripa, any? No? Not that it matters. Krishna Kripa is a special soul. One time Prabhupada saw a devotee taking notes, and he stopped him. And what he said was very interesting. Nobody understood exactly what he meant at the time. He said like putting money in someone else's pocket. Because the active process of listening is being interrupted. If the spiritual master, the pure devotee is speaking to you, there's nothing needed in between. Someone may be thinking, well, I'll forget this. Of course, I'm not a pure devotee. You can write as much as you like. But in Prabhupada's presence, he made it very clear that what I am speaking to you is going directly into your heart. You don't have to write this down. You don't have to try to remember it. If and when you need it, it will be there if you're sincere. Just the process of listening. Of course, we're not technically Shrutidar on the superficial platform. Shrutidar means once having heard, one never forgets. Like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He was, in our time, probably one of the last remaining persons who had that. And does anyone know what that was attributed to? How does one become Shrutidhar? Someone must know. All right, see, Krishna Kripa knows. Because she was Naistik Brahmachari. See, Krishna Kripa knew. Naistik Brahmachari. What does that mean? That means all the semen for his entire life became Udvareta. Feeds the brain. Otherwise, why is a person celibate? What is celibacy? Why do the priestly order, since time immemorial, follow this principle? Just to avoid what? The allurements, the attraction, the pleasure? No, it's because it gives one infallible intelligence. Anyway, that's a sideline, but we have the mercy of the spiritual master that if we're acting on his behalf, he will give us whatever we require in order to accomplish the mission. That's the key. We have to be fixed. We have to be one-pointed. Vyavasaya magabudira. Ekeha kurunandana. Too late. That's for the speaker tomorrow. Or tonight. It's never too late for Krishna's mercy, right? It's never too late. Any other questions? Yes, Mataji. Mataji, if you can just speak loud, we don't need the mic, but it has to be loud. Yes, but see the difference. So in 1965, 66, the population of America was less than 300 million, maybe 250 million. And so what is the percentage? These are all our math texts. What is 5,000 percentage of 250 million? Must be like 0.05% or 0.005%. You have to just move a couple of zeros. But yet, those 5,000 devotees spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. So it's not by quantity, it's by quality. In everything related spiritually, it's always by quality, never by quantity. One pure devotee was all it took. Prabhupada used the analogy, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati used the analogy of many stars but one moon. So this is, what we can take away from the life of the pure devotee is that this, what he accomplished through his unflinching, faithful pursuit of his spiritual master's mission. This is how things will continue on in the future. We have to get some percentage of that, because we have so many great souls who have come to this movement where it's guaranteed to continue. But generation after generation, it has to be refreshed. So every generation has to make contribution to pushing on the mission, not just becoming a member, right? You see many situations, you have so-called membership. But out of that membership, there are leaders, who guide the membership. So we can have many members, but we need also many leaders. So one has to desire that I want to do more to push on the mission, not just be, everything in Krishna consciousness is glorious. I remember that the devotee, very famous in our association, Richard Thompson, he later became initiated as Sadaputa. And he was just coming, he had no ego, just washing the pots. He was just washing the pots. And every devotee who joined the society back in the day washed the pots. Because it is an experience by which the heart is cleansed and Krishna is pleased. These two things in conjunction result in realization and appreciation. If you have not dedicated, and this is not just a one-time thing, it's not just, okay, Prabhu, can you wash the pots? No. These devotees are washing the pots for months, every single day, and then go out on Sankirtan for 5, 6, 7 hours. But that's the way it was. So if someone wants to say, how did these devotees become so advanced and this like that? Because they did the needful and showed Krishna without any reservation. I will do whatever is necessary. I will wash these pots for eternity if that pleases the spiritual master and Krishna. And how does it? Because Krishna will then come and tap you on the shoulder and say, yes, please do this service. Because the person has shown that determination. Because there's many qualities that are required in order to execute something. But primary of those is determination and perseverance. If a person has that, he can conquer the world. Right? There's so many, even in the Vedic scripture, the analogy of Garuda coming to save the sparrow, who was determined to drain the ocean, an impossible feat, in order to recover her eggs. It was not possible. The ocean is simply laughing. But when Garuda came, of course, Garuda has unlimited potency because he's the carrier of Vishnu. Immediately the ocean complied to return the eggs. So that determination to do the impossible is required. Don't think that we won't be faced with impossible tasks. People are saying this building next door will never be built. You guys can't do that. You're just a bunch of Hare Krishnas. What can you do? Where are you going to get $150 million from? Where did they get $150 million to build the TOVP? Because there's no shortage of men or money. So you have to boil the milk, to concentrate our consciousness on achieving that which will please the spiritual master. And Prabhupada was very pleased by his skyscraper building in Manhattan. And it is not there now. So it is up to us to bring back Prabhupada's glory. The glory of America. Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Gaur Premanandi, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki,